If you are a classical musician or even a beginning jazz musician and you need some scales to play over Autumn Leaves, I'm going to give you some basic options and some more advanced options. Autumn Leaves is a super important standard to be able to play over, and the progressions are really common in other jazz standards, so it's just good to be able to know your way around the tune. Now, if you're a classical pianist and you want to know how to improvise over any tune, not just Autumn Leaves, then you can go to my school community. Okay, there are two progressions that we need to understand how to play over in this piece. And those are the 2-5-1 in a major key and in a minor key. These progressions come up in varying contexts throughout the piece. At the start, we have a 2-5-1 in the relative major, and at the end, we have a couple of descending 2-5s. Autumn Leaves is in a minor key, it's in G minor, or at least that's the key I'm playing it in. And so we encounter one minor 2-5-1 in G minor. Now, what scales can we play over these progressions? Over the major 2-5-1, we could go for, as a simple option, a major scale. If you prefer thinking modally, that's the Dorian mode on the 2, the Mixolydian mode on the 5, and the Ionian mode on the 1. And that's going to sound like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, what about if we want something more advanced? Well, I would still suggest the Dorian mode on the 2 and the Ionian mode on the 1. But on the 5, I think that the half-hold diminished scale sounds good. And for that, we would probably put a flat 9 on this 5 chord. So now the progression looks like this. C minor with a 9. F dominant with a flat 9. And then our 1. And that's going to sound like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, now the minor 2-5-1. So, as a basic option, we can just play a blues scale. So we have an A minor flat 5. Now what's this? You might have noticed that I'm not playing the flat 9, I'm actually playing the sharp 9. And you can really play either. I just like the sound of the sharp 9 here. The blues scale over this progression will sound like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, the minor 2-5-1 gets significantly more complicated than the major 2-5-1 when we want to think about actually playing the changes. There are approaches that are in between the blues scale and what I'm about to talk about in terms of complexity, but I'm just going to give you the approach that I would use. So, over this 2 chord, I would use a Locrian mode. Now, the Locrian mode is the 7th mode of the major scale. Now, if you don't like thinking in modes, you can think instead in terms of diatonic 7th chords. So if we look at the diatonic 7th chords, we can see that the 7th diatonic chord is this minor 7 flat 5. So we just have to think, what key does A minor 7 flat 5 appear in? And that's B flat major. So over this, we can play a B flat major scale or a Locrian mode. For the 5 chord, I would go for either the half-hold diminished scale again or an altered scale. The altered scale is a mode of the melodic minor scale. We build it from taking the melodic minor a half step above our root. So if we had a G7, the G melodic minor scale will be an A flat melodic minor. For a D7, the D altered scale would be an E flat melodic minor. Now this scale has all of the dominant chords' altered tones in it. The root, the flat 9, the sharp 9, the third, the flat 5 or the sharp 11, the sharp 5 or the flat 13, the 7, the dominant 7, and the root. So it makes it a great option for a minor 2-5-1, because in that 5 chord we're going to want to have either the flat 9 or the sharp 9, or even the flat 13. So I might write here in brackets that we can put in the flat 13. For our 1 chord, what we don't want to do is play a minor 7 chord. That won't give us the feeling of resolving to a minor tonic. What we'll want to do is either play a 6-9 chord, or we could play a chord with the major 7. This is how the 6-9 chord sounds. And this is how the minor chord sounds with the major 7. You can use either. I'd recommend this, the 6-9 sound. It's good to end pieces on the minor chord with the major 7. And over those chords, we'll use the melodic minor. Okay, all together, the Locrian, the altered, and the melodic minor sound like this. Okay, I just want to end by talking about some strategies for those tricky, short 2/5s at the end of the piece. We have a G minor 7, going to a C7, going to an F minor 7, going to a B flat 7. On some charts, you might see this written G minor 7, G flat 7, F minor 7, E7. Those are just tritone subs on the dominant chords, but we play over them in similar ways. You can use the Mixolydian mode. You can use the whole half diminished scale. You can even use some modes of the melodic minor like Lydian dominant. Some strategies for playing over this, because the changes go by quite quickly, is to play an idea on the first 2/5, so something really simple, and then to transpose it and play the same thing. Okay? That's not only a great strategy to make things easier, but it also gives you a nice sense of phrasing. Okay, so small variations, but keeping the general shape of the phrase the same can be a great way to play over those tricky changes. And then we have that 5-1 right at the end. Now, even if you do go for that more modal approach on the other minor 2/5s, I actually quite like to end on the blues scale. So